morning and welcome to People Online. This time we intend to do a series on HR analytics. The scope, however, is restricted to the very basics with an emphasis on applications, particularly those kind of applications that require less resources to run and perhaps can be best described as low-hanging fruits.
Session 8: Predictive Analytics for Predicting Performance. In this session, we would be covering what is predictive analytics, predicting performance of entities, a case study, predicting performance of individuals with an illustration. What is predictive analytics? Predictive analytics advocates analyzing HR data to acquire greater insight about the future. Example could be analysis of attrition data for a few consecutive years, then compute the trend and forecast attrition for the coming years. One of the more popular application area in predictive analytics would be predicting performance. We can look at two kinds of performance: A, performance of an entity, and B, performance of an individual. Predicting performance of entities. Performance of entities would typically be revenue or profit and would be a metric or continuous variable. This variable will be dependent on a number of independent variables. The relationship could be represented as y is a function of x1, x2, x3 going right up to xn, where y is the performance parameter, xi is the independent variable, and n the number of independent variables. Where the independent variables are continuous, multivariate regression can be used and y can be expressed as y is equal to ax1 plus bx2 plus cx3 plus dx4 plus going right up to n times, and also there should be a constant at the end. Where independent variables are categorical, ANOVA may be used. Predicting performance of entities, a case study. Conducted in the early 50s in a GE plant in the US, this exercise is one of the first organized attempts at using HR analytics for ascertaining plant profitability. It was published in HBR in 1955. Methodology. The researchers brainstormed and arrived at 8 human resource parameters which they thought would have a bearing on plant productivity and therefore on profitability. These included accidents, employee turnover, unplanned absence, grievances, and initial dispensary visits not necessitated by accidents. The independent variables were all metric. Analysis and findings. The HR team tracked these measures and developed a multivariate regression analysis to connect these variables to plant profitability. Plant profitability was a function of x1, x2, x3 going right up to x8, and where of course xi would be the independent variable. So the equation acquired a form: y is equal to ax1 plus bx2 plus cx3 plus dx4 going up to hx8 and ending with a constant. When the predicted profitability was compared with actual profitability, it was found that better the index, better the profitability. However, the correlation between dependent and independent variables was not very strong, which in turn affected the accuracy of prediction. Now we go on to predicting performance of individuals. Performance of individuals are often expressed in categories. The most common example of such categories would be appraisal ratings. This categorical variable will be dependent on a number of independent variables which may be categorical or metric. The relationship could be represented as y is a function of x1, x2, x3 going right up to xn, where y is the performance parameter, xi would be independent variables, and n the number of such independent variables. Where the independent variables are continuous, discriminant function analysis may be used. Where the independent variables are categorical or a combination of categorical and continuous, logistic regression may be used. Predictive variables. Predictive variables may be identified through brainstorming. They may include source or mode of recruitment, qualification or training, academic institutes, organizations worked in, experience, interview rating, hobbies and interests, place of origin, and there could be many more. Sampling. Random sampling of historical data would be used to pick up a sample that would have two categories of people, coded as 1 and 2, based on a laid down criteria for performance. For example, those who were rated excellent or very good during the last 3 years can be categorized as 1. Those who did not meet this criteria may be categorized as 2. Once the sample has been identified, data about the subjects pertaining to the predictive variables can be obtained from the HR records. Results. If the independent variables are only metric, discriminant function analysis can be used. If independent variables are categorical or a combination of metric and categorical, logistic regression is to be used. For either case, the independent and dependent variables should be filled in for each subject from the chosen sample. The discriminant function or the logistic regression would then get ready. This discriminant function or logistic regression would then be used to predict the performance of a target group of incumbents by filling in the independent variables either from HR records or the CVs of the incumbents. This discriminant function or logistic regression can be used taking the help of SPSS or any other equivalent statistical package. An illustration. A large Indian corporation researched potential performance of GTs with a view to predict the potential of applicants for this position. The researchers identified 10 predictive variables, some categorical and some metric. Logistic regression was used to carry out the analysis. The predictive variables included gender, location, secondary marks, class 10 board, class 12 marks, class 12 board, graduation marks, academic institute, whether the subject underwent post-graduation or not, and the source, basically the institute the candidate had been sourced from. The regression is given below. Well, the value of P was computed for each incumbent by filling in the personal details. If the p-value was greater than 0.5, then the candidate was likely to be in the top 50% among GTs in performance evaluation at the end of the confirmation period. Now, if p was less than 0.5, then the candidate would likely to be in the lower half of the performance evaluation spectrum. Summary. So we covered what is predictive analytics, predicting performance of entities, and we did a case study to illustrate that. We also looked at predicting performance of individuals, and we ended with an illustration.
Thank you for watching. If you could relate to the video, if you found it to be useful, do like and share. Do subscribe to our channel. Press the bell button to stay tuned in for our next video. Until then, goodbye.